The European Union's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas has downplayed a new US strategy paper critical of Europe. Published on Friday, the document called Europe over-regulated and facing civilizational erasure because of mass immigration. Speaking at the Doha Forum in Qatar, Kallas said the US remained Europe's biggest ally despite policy differences. Comments are in contrast to Germany's Foreign Minister Johann Wadepful, who rejected what he called outside advice. Here's more of what Kaja Kallas had to say.
You know, US is still our biggest ally, and there I read it as well, that we are still the biggest ally, and it's in the interest of the United States as well that Europe lasts, and that we are really still the ally and working together for these things. I think we haven't always seen eye to eye on different topics, but I think the overall principle is still there. We are the biggest allies and we should stick together.
And for more on this, I'm now joined by Laurel Rapp. She's the director of the US and North America program at the London think tank Chatham House. Laurel, welcome to DW News. Kaja Kallas admits that, as the document indicates, that Europe should be more self-confident, but she seems to be downplaying all the other criticisms from the Americans. Rightly?
So there are tactical questions about how publicly senior leaders want to break with the Trump administration on this national security strategy. But there is serious reason for concern in the 33-page document that was released over the last several days. It does situate Europe as one of the major impediments to sort of the US realizing its vision in the world. It gives Russia and China a pass in many ways, but does say that Europe reserves the most criticism for its closest European allies.
Now, the German foreign minister said yesterday that Germany doesn't need outside advice. But is there any point in that document that Europe maybe should take into serious consideration instead of just dismissing it?
So this document speaks in great depth about the vision that the United States has for a Europe and European political parties that respect, in their words, freedom of expression, secure borders, regulated migration, cultural and religious tolerance. These are not new issues that the Trump administration is highlighting. We heard this first in Vice President J.D. Vance's address at the Munich Security Conference in February. We've seen these messages threaded throughout other public and private statements we've seen this administration offer to the Europeans. But this is the first really consolidated public message on the very serious concerns the Trump administration has about Europe's trajectory, Europe's management of its internal domestic affairs. And it is quite bracing as one reads it in contrast to how the strategy treats the internal affairs of other countries, effectively saying that the U.S. should stop meddling in the internal politics of other countries who share different values and histories to the United States and the West. But for U.S. partners who have similar cultures and history and norms, as they call it, there is rightfully, in this administration's view, a role for the Trump administration to play in offering this very pointed criticism of how some of the current European political parties have run their countries.
Now, as you said, these are not just some offhand remarks by the president or a Secretary of State, for example. This is a consolidated document that has been worked on by a number of people. This is why I'm asking again, how should Europe react to this?
So this document is a senior White House official product that is made in coordination with senior officials from the State Department, from the Department of the Defense, from the intelligence community. I was on the team that helped with the previous national security strategy, and I can tell you it goes through many iterations of drafts to get to this final. We understand that has happened with this version as well. But what we've seen is a much more streamlined, a much more consolidated text than even the first Trump administration document was, which really speaks to how this administration has consolidated the senior leadership positions with more loyalists, with folks who align more closely with Trump's worldview than in his first cabinet. And this is now a bit of a roadmap in some ways for European and other officials to understand how this administration is going to manage relationships moving forward. And there will be a very clear focus on European internal affairs, on what this Trump administration calls freedom of expression issues in Europe. They highlight quite centrally the sort of so-called patriotic European parties that are resurgent across Europe, and says that is cause for great optimism.
You just mentioned especially the support for these movements and parties. The strategy also states the US will be cultivating resistance to current trajectories within European nations. Is the US saying its intention is intending to get involved in Europe's internal issues and help push these far-right agendas?
I think the strategy was very clear that it will. The question is, how will they do that? There will clearly be public support and public backing rhetorically. But beyond that, it remains to be seen what that support may end up looking like. But from an intention perspective, we've heard that as a consistent through line since January. And it is, again, in quite stark contrast to how the administration envisions engagement with other countries, especially those in the Gulf, for example, in Russia or in China, where the U.S. should stop, as they said, pushing an agenda, stop pushing democratic norms and a particular system of government if that is not the tradition of that region.
Briefly, if you can, in your opinion, is this the biggest breakup in transatlantic relations since 1945? Briefly, if you can.
This is a very bracing strategy to read if you believe in a close transatlantic relationship. Many of the past national security strategies have situated the transatlantic alliance as the central orienting alliance and relationship militarily, economically, diplomatically, from a values perspective. There is a very clear break here that is no longer the case, and it is other regions, Latin America, the Gulf, that will be taking this greater prominence in Trump administration foreign policy making and alliances. The strategy says, look, there's, again, cause for optimism as these far-right parties gain greater prominence across the continent. There is opportunity for reform and returning to or evolving to a better relationship across the Atlantic. But for right now, this is a pretty stark contrast with what we've seen even in the first Trump administration.
Laurel Rapp, the director of the US and North America program at the think tank Chatham House. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise with us.
Thanks for having me.